too much at a certain point. He'll be okay. He's gonna be okay.
I feel like it was more out of people donating because he did what they couldn't, and he did it, and they want to buy him a drink, $800,000 worth of drinks, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I wish that I had been in the position to yell that at Donald Trump. The closest I can come is tweeting it at Dan Bongino, but which is almost as good. Nobody's paying me $800,000 for that though. But anyway, so yeah, some good stuff going on in the world. And then a lot of bad stuff too, which we will be talking about in just a little bit. We're gonna be talking about the latest updates coming out of Minnesota and what is likely to come there. We have an update on Donald Trump's little dabbling in piracy. We were suspicious about what would be done with the money coming from that. And hey, what do you know? Turns out we were totally right to be. We'll have that update for you. Congress gets ready to potentially ban stock trading. Ban stock trading. We'll talk about that and why it might not be all it's cracked up to be or whatever. And then a whole lot more besides. Some good news on redistricting. And then the MAGA backlash against Donald Trump, who seems to be today pumping the brakes on more strikes on Iran. But I don't think that's what's going on. So we'll talk about that too. And that's all in the first hour. We're gonna be talking a lot about food in the aftermath because the Trump administration, they've run some simulations and they're pretty sure you peasants can survive on very little money for food. And RFK Jr. desperately wants more protein. So there's a lot to discuss in advance of that. Hit the like button, share the stream, send us your comments, your tweets, your super chats. And it sounds like we're having some sort of potential stream issues on YouTube. The chat is working, the video might not be. That is beyond my knowledge or ability to fix right now. So hopefully there are people on, also we appear to be live on Twitch. So hopefully you can switch over there until it gets fixed. In any event, with all that said, Viviana, are you ready to do this thing?
I'm ready, John, do it.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if I was like, well, oh no, now we're losing the audio too. Everything's falling apart. Anyway, okay, lest we cause any more tech problems, let's just jump right into it.
Why are we seeing Americans being asked on the street to provide proof of citizenship in Minnesota? Is that targeted enforcement? And are you advising Americans to carry proof of citizenship?
In every situation, we're doing targeted enforcement. If we are on a target and doing an operation, there may be individuals surrounding that criminal that we may be asking who they are and why they're there and having them validate their identity. That's what we've always done, and asking people who they are so that we know who's in those surroundings. And if they are breaking our federal laws, we will detain them as well until we run that processing.
So that is all lies. Her cover story for what they're doing in Minnesota is falling apart as fast as her face is melting. No, they're not. There's nothing targeted. Targeted doesn't mean anything. They just say it. Every enforcement action is targeted in the same way every shot fired is defensive, regardless of what's actually going on. They are walking up to random United States citizens and asking for them to present their papers. That's what is actually going on. Random people. She sort of said, well, they're near a person that we're going after that's targeted. I don't even believe that. I don't believe that there's any target whatsoever. But even if that was true, which it's not, but even if that was true, you being near a criminal does not make you a criminal. That's not how America is supposed to work, but that is unfortunately how America works under Donald Trump and under Kristi Noem. Gee, I wonder why her job approval rating in recent polls has been at 36%. I'm not quite sure. But in addition to having to present your papers, you have an increasing chance of being shot by one of Donald Trump's secret police. Yet another person was shot since our last show. A man was shot in the leg during an attempted traffic stop. Now, we're gonna be explaining to you what DHS said about this, so take it with a grain or perhaps a mountain of salt. But they say it happened just after 7 p.m. after law enforcement officials were attacked with a shovel and a broom as they tried to complete a targeted traffic stop. Again, it's all targeted. It's not random suppression of a city because that's what Donald Trump wants to do. It's all targeted. And so anyway, they say they were attempting a traffic stop of a man, a Venezuelan man, who they said is in the country illegally. That hasn't been demonstrated yet. Might be true, might not be. The man left in a vehicle which crashed into a parked car and then ran away. As the officer pursued the man, he assaulted the officer. All this is according to NBC News. While the officer and the man were in a struggle on the ground, DHS says 2 people came out of an apartment and attacked the officer with a snow shovel and a broom handle. The original man then got loose and also began attacking the officer with a shovel or a broomstick. And then this is the quote from DHS. Fearing for his life and safety as he was being ambushed by 3 individuals, the officer fired defensive shots to defend his life, and the man was shot in the leg. So defensive shots to defend his life. I think that the lady doth defend too much. This is all propaganda. I mean, look, maybe that's actually what happened, that he was chasing this guy and then people came out, a vicious ambush with a broom handle. But to be clear, broom handle shovels are not approved weapons that can be used to bludgeon cops to death. Trump flagpoles, fire extinguishers, those can be used to bludgeon cops to death. And if you do it that way, you'll get a pardon from the president. Not shovels, not broom handles, everybody catch up. But anyway, so he had to do this, he had to shoot this guy. And at least in this case, he shot him in the leg. It's better than some of the stuff ICE has done recently in that area, I suppose. The man and the officer are in the hospital. The other 2 men are in custody, supposedly. Again, this is what they're saying. There is now, by the way, a phone call that has gone out, like the video of a phone call of a woman making it seem as if the man was shot while in his home. Again, a lot of misinformation can come out in the wake of these things, either in videos posted on Reddit or from statements from DHS. And so I'm not gonna jump to any conclusions, as I didn't initially with Renee Nicole Good, but we also know that these people are massive freaking liars and there's no reason to trust them. Viviana, what do you make of this? Bearing in mind this is the first on the show that you've commented on any of this stuff.
I mean, gosh, it has been such a whirlwind, John. And it's hard to say that I'm surprised, because we kind of have seen this leading up to this sort of Gestapo behavior. And I mean, the Supreme Court has already sort of authorized them to say, show me your papers, to people that they think look to appear to be, on the surface, undocumented. I also don't know exactly what to believe when I first read stories. I got to dig a little bit deeper. I suggest that everybody continue to do what you're doing. I think that man fled into a house, and that might be why their confusion is. But it's a war zone. I mean, really, they're attacking us with broomsticks. Wasn't there a Disney movie about bed knobs and broomsticks or something? That doesn't sound that scary to me. These people have assault weapons, tanks, and they're afraid of people fleeing them. And then it's right at this cusp of like, show us her papers. She didn't answer it, John. The answer is yes, Kristi Noem. The answer is yes, people should be carrying their papers. That's what you want. So say it.
Yeah. No, 100%. That is simply the truth. And by the way, we are focusing on Minnesota. A lot of people are, but to be clear, this is not the only place where ICE is out in force right now. They're out in a number of other blue states. I know Illinois has quite a bit going on. I've read some stuff about Ohio. I also know Texas has a lot of ICE enforcement going on. LA actually just had some ICE enforcement. Now, they didn't dispatch their 3,000 goons to cause as much chaos as possible. I'm sure they'll do that in LA again, don't worry. But it is happening in a lot of different places, and it's very hard to know what to trust, except that we know we can't trust the government. Hell, we were told that by Kristi Noem on the news just a few days ago, so I'm gonna listen to her in this particular case. Now, there is a lot of chaos and developing chaos in Minnesota with the 2,000 to 3,000 ICE and Border Patrol and DHS officers there. We have CNN, who's reporting in the aftermath of last night's shooting on what's going on in the protests. Take a look at that.
There is a growing crowd here that is increasingly angry, that is following ICE, what we believe are ICE officers or other immigration agents throughout this neighborhood, screaming at them, telling them to leave in the strongest possible terms they can muster here. Meanwhile, ICE, trying to push back this crowd, was letting off tear gas canisters over and over and over. And at one point, Abby, they were going off all around us, and actually it became so chaotic that one bounced off my foot and bounced off my side.
We're looking at what seems to be a standoff between federal agents and protesters. They're divided by a police line, but there is something of a standoff that is developing here on the scene where you are.
Yes, a bit of a standoff between invading forces that the locals there don't want and people desperately trying to protect their friends and neighbors. That's what's going on. And as that reporter said, so I shot someone, and then, as always, they will use whatever happens, even if it's them instigating it, as a reason to go further. And so they started setting off flashbangs all over the place, just random people that have nothing to do with the protests, having tear gas and flashbangs go off right near them. That's what they want to do. That's why they're there. And we're all paying for it, by the way. We're paying over between $1 and $200 billion for the government-sponsored suppression of ICE. And this is what it's going towards. And so a lot of people are really angry about this. God only knows, tear gas canisters can do real damage to people, especially kids. And ICE isn't checking to see if kids are in the range of this. They're not trained on how to do that. They've got their 2 weeks or so of training. And so almost certainly more people are going to be injured, maimed, killed as a result of this. And coming in now, we have Governor Tim Walz with another statement. I was pretty critical of his initial reaction to the shooting from last week. Let's see what he had to say in his most recent address.
News reports simply don't do justice to the level of chaos and disruption and trauma the federal government is raining down upon our communities. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including US citizens, and demanding to see their papers. And at grocery stores, at bus stops, even at our schools. They're breaking windows, dragging pregnant women down the street, just plain grabbing Minnesotans and shoving them into unmarked vans, kidnapping innocent people with no warning and no due process. Let's be very, very clear. This long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. Instead, it's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of Minnesota by our own federal government. You have an absolute right to peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct these activities. So carry your phone with you at all times. And if you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Help us create a database of the atrocities against Minnesotans, not just to establish a record for posterity, but to bank evidence for future prosecution.
Okay, so I don't disagree with anything that he said, and people are filming it. They should be filming it. There's a reason that Brett gave people filming the ICE interactions his Turk of the Year at the end of last year. That's all good, and he's right. This is repression. It has nothing to do with immigration. There's no targeting going on, but also I don't know. Am I being I never know anymore if I'm being a dick. Why are you in that room, Tim Walz? Get out there. How about, first of all, you already said you were going to call up the National Guard potentially. And you haven't done that. And I know that that's a big escalation or whatever. And so you're very worried about what would happen. We're all worried about, civil war or whatever. But could you at least get out of the wood paneled room? Why don't you go? Why aren't you there with the people? Maybe then ICE would back off a little bit. If the leader was there, if you got the cops with you, you brought your bodyguards or whatever. I feel like he's in his mansion or whatever. He's in the Capitol building, and it just feels very far apart from the actual chaos we're seeing. Viviana, you let me know if you think that is an unfair expectation.
Well, let me take this opportunity, John, to let you know you are not being a dick.
Thank you.
This is very chaotic times. And I would like to see him out in the forefront too. That's one of the things that we saw Dr. Martin Luther King doing. He was on the front lines with people, marching peacefully, making a protest. And if that means putting your body in between your constituents and the danger and something happens to you, then that's how heroes are made, Governor Walz. I'm not saying to do it, but that's how you put yourself out there. I do appreciate him giving his constituents a little bit of hope by saying we are going to prosecute these people, whether that's in a pipe dream or not. It does make us feel like we know what's wrong. Our morality compass might be better than Donald Trump's in this case. And so we know that this is wrong, and we know that this should be punished. And we're hoping that there's still some semblance of law and rule in our country that we can, adhere to. But it sounds like it's slipping away a little bit, especially in Minnesota right now.
Yeah, and we're all worried about what's happening right now, but we also know that this is a prelude to what they're going to be doing later on this year to try to manipulate the elections. And for Walt specifically, he was a soldier for years and years. I'm not I don't know, what would be someone who, like, I'm not like Maxine Waters, throw yourself on top of that car. Like, I'm not, like, he's a soldier. And also, he's not even running for re-election. It's not like he really has to, like, politically, how will this play with like the polls? You're not running again, dude. Get out there, you're freed up. You're a lame duck, but you don't have to be. You could be some other kind, you could be a brave duck, Tim Walz, okay? Because you don't need to run again. So get out there and support people. And you know that he's still got his eye on future elections. Maybe do something to earn consideration when you run in 2028 or whatever it is that you're going to do. But anyway, let's turn from his reaction to others. Donald Trump, who is a couple of weeks into pretending that he cares about the protesters in Iran or whatever, has a very different tactic for the protesters in Minnesota. He posted this on Truth Social saying, if the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists, you know, like regular people from Minneapolis, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me. What? And quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in our once great capital S state. And then his standard ending right there. So again, nobody's surprised by this. He desperately wants to do domestically what he's been doing internationally, which is saying there is no check on my power. I can do anything I want. I can deploy the military any way I want. I can kill anybody I want. And so this is what he's threatening to do because people are shouting obscenities at ICE. So that's obviously an insurrection. You know, America might fall as a result of someone calling, you know, an ICE officer a coward or whatever. So that's what he's threatening right there. And here is what Kristi Noem had to say.
The president's threatening the Insurrection Act. Just a quick definition for our viewers: authorizes the president to deploy military forces inside the U.S. to suppress rebellion or domestic violence or to enforce law in a certain situation. How serious is that threat right now? Will that happen, Madam Secretary?
You know, I spoke to the president this morning about several different things, but we did discuss that. And that certainly is within the president's constitutional authority to use that if he thinks he needs to keep people safe. What I love about this president is the very first question that he asks me is, how are you doing and how are our people doing in this country? How are the people doing and our law enforcement officers? What can we do to keep them safe?
Yeah, that's nice. He's a really nice guy. Maybe his second question could be like, how are the people of Minnesota doing? How are our American citizens doing? Why are they so terrified? What are we doing to horrify and terrify them? Maybe we could change course and not do it this way. I'll remind everyone, and Viviana, then I'll throw it to you. Immigration enforcement has gone on for decades and decades and decades and decades. Hell, it's gone on under ICE for more than 2 decades. It didn't generally need 3,000 soldiers in the streets busting down people's doors, deploying tear gas and everything. Barack Obama, who we were very critical here at TYT of his immigration enforcement, deported way more people without brutal crackdowns resulting in moms getting shot in the face. Why is it that other presidents were able to do it for far less money and far more effectively, but the only thing they seem to be maximizing on the Trump administration is terror, terrorizing civilian populations? Anyway, Viviana, what are your thoughts?
We used to call Obama deporter in chief. He did deport a lot of people. He really cracked down on a lot of undocumented immigration, and we didn't. You're right, we didn't see this amount of terror. However, we have seen this amount of terror in the United States before. As recent as the 1950s during Eisenhower's presidency with quote unquote Operation Wetback, where 1 million people were taken. Some of them were American citizens born and raised, my own, family members taken to Mexico where they'd never been before. A lot of people forget the border history between the United States and Mexico, where the Southwest and California were a part of Mexico. So there's a lot of family who has really deep roots. And this terror has been shown before. We've seen this sort of brutality against African Americans during slavery times, and of course during Jim Crow. That also included attacks on other people of color, including Mexicans in Texas and in the Southwest. LULAC was an organization that was founded back, in the 1920s to sort of curtail some of this discrimination. And the pendulum has swung. We got to the place where we're like, okay, this is wrong, and now we're getting to the place where people like Kristi Noem are saying this is right. This is protecting our country. And so this is the cognitive dissonance where we see chaos in our street, but we have our supposed leaders telling us that this is law and order. Yeah. We're gonna have to come to terms with it. But we have seen an ugly history like this before in the United States. And I'm afraid that we're there again. It's there. Yeah. And they promised this. Trump promised this before he won in 2016. He said he was gonna do this. So we should have believed him. We should have believed Project 2025.
No. It's all very surprising. That's why Joe Rogan is just aghast at what he's seeing. He couldn't see it coming. Well, anyway, let's talk about at least one thing, a symbolic thing that's being done to potentially help a little bit. Some in the Democratic Party are trying to put a stop, if not today, at least on tomorrow's ICE reign of terror by actually introducing a bill to abolish it. And so it's definitely not going to happen. Let's be very clear about that right now, at least, although the polls are moving in the direction of supporting that. But here's a representative arguing for why this bill should be passed.
Kristi Noem must be impeached. She must face the consequences of this. And we must reform ICE. But it looks at this stage, folks, ICE is beyond reform. ICE is totally out of control. And this week, I intend to introduce a bill to abolish ICE. We do not need the murderers. We do not need these paramilitary organizations, members on our street terrorizing US citizens, terrorizing moms, terrorizing our children.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I think it's like the compromise position is just abolishing it. We could go a lot further, and we should. But no, the idea that you're gonna reform it, you're gonna do an extra training session for the Proud Boys that are now ICE employees. You're gonna, no, burn it to the ground, take away all of the money. You could set up immigration enforcement, which we had prior to ICE. Everybody thinks that like ICE was set up in like the 12th century or something. We did immigration enforcement before ICE. And there was already good reason to want it to be abolished before it became obviously Donald Trump's paramilitary personal army. That's all it is right now. It cannot be allowed to continue past this president. But I want to give you just one more clip. This is Representative Ilhan Omar focusing on one of the topics that Representative Thanedar talked about in that first clip, which is impeaching Kristi Noem. Take a look.
ICE's reckless actions have taken a mother from 3 children, a partner from a wife, and inflicted unfathomable pain on our community. My deepest condolences go to Renee's family, friends, and anyone who loved her. We will not stop fighting until we achieve real justice and accountability. That must begin with impeaching Kristi Noem and ensuring no federal agent can act as a judge, jury, and executioner on our streets. It must also include full and transparent investigation and legal action against ICE.
Yeah, and I think that the time to strike is now, and hopefully the time to actually get things done will continue into the next few years. But we can just briefly show you some of the polling. We've been talking about these polls the last few days or so. ICE's net approval is down 17 points from Trump's term. It was even, now it's a net negative. ICE enforcement is making US cities less safe, 51% say, more safe, 31% say, you sweet summer children, and having little effect, 18%, which also makes sense. I mean, they're killing people, but they're not doing much about the things that actually imperil people's lives other than ICE. And so I really hope that we see a continued push on this. I don't know. Let's say, Viviana, that the Democrats do take over the House, maybe even the Senate. Do you expect them to do anything, or is it gonna feel like 2020 all over again? What do you think?
I hate to be a cynic, John, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are still getting paid and they don't want to, upset the apple cart too much. And I think we have a really serious problem in this country when we have federal goons that will take over our cities and we have no means to protect ourselves. The governor of Minnesota, our governor here in California, had threatened to use the National Guard against ICE. It's not going to happen. Let's not forget the thin blue line, John. That was intentional, and that's been happening for decades now. They all back each other up, these law enforcement types. So they're MAGA too. And so we're expecting them to turn around. Some of them are. A lot of veterans and a lot of law enforcement are against what's happening. But we have a real serious issue, and I'm not sure that voting or politics is gonna change it right now. I think we are in the midst of locomotive out of control, running off the rails, and we got to see what happens and clean up the mess. I'm not sure that we're gonna have. They're gonna try, but I'm not sure. I hate to be cynical.
Well, and also, and as I said, and we'll end on this, they're gonna try to make it so that voting doesn't even have a chance of changing the outcome, because there is no November that does not involve ICE being deployed into urban centers to start checking people's papers as they go to vote. All of it, and to create chaos, and there'll be tear gas, and there'll be a couple of shootings early in the day, just enough to terrify people, just enough to nudge the numbers a little bit. And so I don't want to do the show where we come the day after the election like, yeah, they did it. They did what we said we were going to do. National Guard didn't come to people's rescue, didn't save democracy. They just allowed it to happen. But it is really feeling like that, because I'm not seeing the level of opposition that would be necessary to stop it from happening. Anyway, we'll try to get a little bit more positive later on the show. We're going to end this segment on a bit of a down note. We'll be back after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's been going on out there in the audience. Scoobster says, how to tell John, are you acting like Brett? In what way am I acting like? I haven't said anything too profane or disgusting, I don't think yet. Am I acting like Brett? Audience, what do you think? CD No Stock Dad sent a membership, which is super nice of you. Thank you for doing that and for always doing that. Someone saying you're lagging slightly, but it's not horrible. Does Brett often lag? I don't know. By the way, Technology, it's a great quote. I've seen it used in this context before, but it's from Battlestar Galactica. There's a reason you separate military and the police. One fights the enemies of the state, the other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, then the enemies of the state tend to become the people, from William Adama, totally. Okay, Dawn Whitehead gifted 5 more memberships. Thank you for that, super nice of you. Gary Does Stuff member for 39 months says, is John coming in late from watching the watch list live stream? I really need to start logging when those sorts of messages come in, because I want to know how late we're actually transitioning from that. Sorry, I'm trying to do some of the behind the scenes stuff at the same time. Eric For Real, member for 11 months, says, Tim the Brave Duck Waltz. I want it. If he does it, I'll make a t-shirt. But as of right now, no, not necessarily. Socrates Bartender says, Brett lags on the golf course. Look, you can, and I do, and you should criticize Brett in a lot of different ways. But as of right now, his golfing is pretty unimpeachable. He's very good at golf. I can't take that away from him. Anyway, Nicodemus said in the YouTube chat, Bedknobs and Broomsticks has Angela Lansbury kicking Nazi ass. Respect. I haven't seen it in a very long time. It's one of the things, it's one of the movies I watched like growing up, Viviana, but it's been a very long time. The Nazis are in Bedknobs and Broomsticks?
I literally don't remember either, but I just remember that funny title. But that's hilarious. It's even more apropos. I was right on point.
There's a like era of Disney movie that it all kind of gets lumped in my head, like that, a little bit of like Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And like it just seems like all the movies involve kids flying on beds or on cars or something, but I don't remember the specifics. Yeah, in the ending, they fight the Nazis. Man, Disney went hard back in the day. Anyway,
all of the movies were anti-Nazi now, and so I don't understand how we've all been indoctrinated to be anti-Nazi. What's going on? Yeah, it's weird. We're at some point I'm gonna have to explain to Raina that there was a time when we all agreed Nazis were bad. It was a long time ago. I don't know if we'll get there again, but at one point we did.
Okay, Windrunner Dragon says that police line needs to face the other way and protect citizens from ICE. That's what I've been saying. It literally says protect and serve. And the implication was they meant the people of the area they worked in, not to protect and serve ICE, to protect and serve Donald Trump. But unfortunately, and maybe we should have made that line on the cars a little bit more specific. Anyway, CD Northstock Dad says in a super chat, there is no statute of limitations on crimes ICE agents Trump or Noam are doing now. They'll all end up in prison and international world court. I don't know. There is, there's an extended statute of limitations for instance, what Ross did. He should be investigated and charged after Trump is out of office and can't protect him in a variety of different ways. In terms of like Noam or Trump in the International Criminal Court, my hopes do not extend that far. My hopes extend to, heroic blood clot. I can get there, him being thrown out of office. That's about as far as I can expect at this point, but we'll see. Okay, hit the like button as we jump into more wild news. It wasn't that long ago that Donald Trump announced that after deposing Nicolas Maduro, he was just gonna take a bunch of oil. It's his now and he can just sell it, and he apparently did. And it was apparently valued at about $500 million, which, let's just remind everyone, it was estimated it could bring in $2 to $3 billion. They got 500 million. So the art of the deal, everyone. But that's not the biggest issue right here. The biggest issue also isn't that apparently the American government and our military is just pirates now. We're just pirates like Jack Sparrow. We're thieves in the night. We steal the resources, we sell it on the world market. Bear in mind, you're not getting that money. Just want to remind everyone, it doesn't go to you, it doesn't go to me. It actually gets worse than all of that, and far more suspicious and likely illegal. So let's get to that point. The craziest thing I've seen in quite a bit. So Trump signed an executive order that provided some details on how the US plans to block courts or creditors from tapping any revenue from these oil sales, because they're gonna keep doing it. Venezuela owes international bondholders, oil companies, and others as much as $170 billion. It's one of the reasons US firms don't actually want to go into Venezuela. Trump apparently told the ConocoPhillips CEO Ryan Lance last week that the US, quote, is not going to look at what people lost in the past because that was their fault. So the idea is, I'm gonna steal the oil, I'm gonna sell it, but you oil companies don't get it because it doesn't matter what you lost in the past, that's in the past. Which I'm old enough to remember when Trump said one of the reasons we need to go into Venezuela is because they stole our oil by throwing out the oil companies. So which is it? Is it just in the past, or is it a reason to engage in neo-colonialism? He seems a bit confused, as he is about so many things. But here's the kicker. So revenue from the oil sale is currently being held in bank accounts controlled by the US government. The main account, according to a second senior administration official, is located in Qatar, not here. Like not a US government bank account in the United States, which I had been led to believe was like an advanced nation, a serious nation. No, we're sending it to Qatar. So we took Venezuelan oil and we sold it for us to use, but the money's not gonna be here, it's gonna be somewhere else for reasons that we're not supposed to believe are wildly corrupt and criminal. Anyway, the official described Qatar as a neutral location where money can flow freely with US approval and without risk of seizure. So, okay, so the idea is the fear would be that like courts would intervene to seize the money to pay off the international bondholders or the oil companies whose money allegedly, arguably, was stolen by Venezuela. And Trump can't allow that to happen, even though, wouldn't that be some form of economic justice, at least from his point of view? But I don't think that's the seizure he's actually worried about. We can't seize it. The United States government can't necessarily touch it. Certainly the Congress isn't gonna be able to. And we're just supposed to be okay with this. Now, Elizabeth Warren had a strong statement saying there's no basis in law for a president to set up an offshore account that he controls so that he can sell assets seized by the American military. That is precisely a move that a corrupt politician would be attracted to. And Viviana, why would we believe that this money is going to be used for, as he says, It's for the Venezuelan people. Okay, so he's not gonna give it to the oil companies, to the international bondholders, and he's definitely not gonna steal it or anything. It's gonna go to Venezuela, but it needs to be stored in Qatar. Why would we believe that?
Well, I mean, I think Fox News would do a whole story on Hunter Biden right now. That's what they're concerned about. Like, can you imagine if this was on the other side? This is bonkers, John. I mean, they're literally just stealing money. I mean, is this what you just described? It's like a bank heist and they're putting it in some offshore account. What is happening? This isn't normal. Other countries must be looking at us like we're insane. I mean, what is gonna happen at the end of this chaotic fire?
Yeah, no, they should be looking at us like we're insane and corrupt. And, Donald Trump has always looked up to these foreign dictators. And we said for a bunch of years, wildly, because of our latent Trump derangement syndrome, that he would seek to do the same thing. Are we seeming like we were hyperbolic? Does it seem like we were just, oh, you're freaking out for clickbait or whatever? I don't know. I kind of feel like he's deposing leaders. He's threatening to destroy NATO. He's stealing massive amounts of money. By the way, 500 million seems like his standard corruption. That's what the plane that he got from the Middle East was too. So I don't know. I kind of feel like there should be some oversight of this, and I'm sure Ken Klippenstein will get some documents and we'll find out some wild stuff, but there should be legal consequences for what we're seeing, not just hopefully disclosure. But anyway, let's talk about money in a different aspect, starting with this video.
Everybody wants to block and stop nefarious activity and insider trading, but it needs to be done in a thoughtful manner, and Brian Stiles done a great job. So members of our House Republican Conference have worked on this issue for years, and the result is a bill that I think we'll be able to pass with I hope, a wide bipartisan margin. Obviously, members of Congress should not be allowed to profit from insider trading. Obviously, doing so abuses the office and diminishes trust here in Congress, and it flies in the face of the oath that we all took before beginning our service here. And we won't be able to change public opinion overnight, but I think with strides like this, the American people can begin to recognize again that Congress can be trusted, and we're working hard, Republicans are, to earn back that trust.
No, it cannot be trusted. No, they're not working hard. And if it wasn't already clear, it doesn't really ban them from owning stocks, to be clear about that. Now, you probably got that they're not serious from the way he said, obviously we shouldn't be insider trading. He sounded so bored about the wild corruption that has rightly enraged the American people. But he would have you believe they're gonna ban it, and you should be excited. And soon there are gonna be some Democrats that stand up and say, no, we shouldn't pass this bill. And you are gonna be mad at them, but should you be? Because is this actually a stock trading ban? There's good reason to believe that no, it is not. So it would bar lawmakers from buying new individual stocks. Mostly, kind of, but it would allow members of Congress to keep their existing stock and continue to sell if they provide 7 to 14 days of notice. It would also allow them to reinvest dividends in new stocks and let spouses and other family members trade freely on behalf of a lawmaker. So get a load of this. Now, like if you don't do a lot of investing, which most people don't, because how the hell would you afford it? That may be like a little bit hard to understand. So they're saying buying new stocks, no, obviously you can't do that, would be corrupt. But investing dividends to buy new stocks will be allowed. It's just money. It's just you're buying new stocks with money that you have. The money is in a different form, but why would we allow that? And by the way, your family members can do all of it for you. So there is an actual bill out there to ban stock trading that would say you can't do it. Not with money, not with dividends, not with coins, not with checks. You just can't do it, and your family members can't, because we know that that's an easy way to use the privileged information you have to continue doing insider trading. But they think that they're being tricky, and they've tricked some people who maybe should know better. Anna Paulina Luna has backed this measure. Now, she was previously in favor of the actual stock trading ban. I guess she's just giving it up. I guess this is something. But honestly, there's a case to be made that this is worse than nothing. Because if they pass this, then maybe that diffuses the anger that could get them to pass an actual stock trading ban. Maybe it would be better to just kill this, do nothing, and then once the Democrats take over, actually pass it. Or at least try to, and have Hakeem Jeffries stop us from passing it. But again, I'm worried about this. AOC also is slamming this new bill. Take a look.
This legislation that has been put forward by Republican leadership is not a congressional stock trading ban. It was written by the wealthiest members of Congress for the wealthiest members of Congress. It allows the richest members of Congress to continue to own, buy, and sell stock. And in fact, it creates many different new loopholes and vehicles with which wealthy members can do that. It adds new exceptions for their wives or their husbands to be able to trade on behalf of other people. Interesting. It creates new exceptions for their children to be able to buy and trade stock. It allows them to use their dividends to buy stock. And so actually what this only does is make it harder for everyday people to see what kind of insider trading their member of Congress is doing.
AOC is dead right there. First time I've ever said that on the show. Viviana, what do you make of this?
Well, I think that's why they call him Magic Mike. He's got that 3-card Monty. Like, oh, we're not really doing it. Which one is it under? It's disgusting. And I was looking at the chat and people were talking about, Democrats like to grift too. A lot of people are making a lot of money trading stocks. A lot of Congress people, a lot of people, just your average person, are watching the trades that Nancy Pelosi is making, and they're making those same trades too to make some money. We have to put a stop to this. This is absolutely despicable. This is hurting our country, and it is obvious fraud. And I totally agree that we should just smash this, put a real legislation in place that's gonna prevent this and stop this. This is what they do. They put up this little false, narrative. We're trying to do it. We're taking it, and it's just all a bunch of baloney, and it's disgusting.
Exactly.
Minuscule Mike. I can't with him.
Did you say minuscule Mike? I like that. Let's get the t-shirt of that. Okay, well, we do have to take our second break of the hour. Important news to get to on the other side though. Just in case is behind the scenes, I think that we should flip the next 2 blocks. I think, yeah, let's do that. Just in case. Okay, let's see. CDN Norstog Dad says in a super chat, bed knobs and broomsticks was set during World War II. The kids were from London during the Blitz, or well, maybe I'm not sure what that word is. But yeah, I have to rewatch some of these movies. There's all these, like, I remember Pete's Dragon. I remember as a kid thinking it was so cool because it was live action, but it had an animated dragon. I bet it looks terrible now if you were to watch it, but I thought it was so cool.
So good. It's so good.
I haven't seen those movies in forever. My
nostalgic.
I feel like both my grandmothers had a shelf, like a whole shelf that was just Disney VHSs. I know my father's mom had like every single Disney movie back when you could own
the Criterion collection.
There you go. but of animated, yeah. Okay, let's see. Ed Chilton says t-shirt idea. John Iadarola will return in Avengers Doomsday. No, unfortunately, it wouldn't be me. If anybody on our staff would, it would be Sharon actually, because she's in the MCU. Maybe my wife. She's also canonically in the MCU. I have not.
She is. I saw her the other day.
There you go. Beaners88 has been with us on Twitch for 48 months, 4 full years. Thank you for that. Dolores in Darkness, 68 months. Thank you so much. Little Cake with Sprinkles, you sound delicious. 62 months, thank you. Technauseated said, please disable biometrics to unlock your phone. They can't force a code or pattern. They can use your face or finger to unlock it. Same with airports. That is a good point, something to think about. I really need to figure out a way. I told everybody, did I mention the whistles? Did I talk about the whistles? No? So Jordan, he sent me this 3D printing file for this like tiny little simple whistle or whatever that you can 3D print. I have a 3D printer. So I printed one out and I blew it, and it is so loud that it hurt my ears for quite a while actually. But anyway, I figured out I could print out a whole bunch of them in not too long. I just need to figure out how do I get them to like I don't know, either to Minneapolis or the marches or to, like, I got to figure out a way. I would love to do this printing to help it out because, people need these to alert people to the presence of ICE and everything. But anyway, it is a little bit too loud though. I think honestly, it's a little bit kind of damaging actually. I have no doubt that if you blew it in the face of an ICE officer, they would claim they need to fire defensive shots. Anyway, okay, let's see. Lochnar says, John, have you heard about the Sasha Riley story yet? Yes, I haven't. There's a lot of stuff going on. I need to see, like, really well checked and everything. If you have a particular source for it that you'd like me to read, please let me know. Okay, let's see. Yes, no, I'm not going to read that one. Mike, thank you, producer Mike. Scandinavian Alien Dragon says in a super chat, are we still talking about Ross? They were on a break. Too soon, I think, on that one. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate the reference, but yes, much too soon there. Anyway, okay, so let's see. Oh, I really do have to eventually get around to redoing that intro. I have no idea when it's actually going to happen. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff, especially in this area I was just talking about, that's going around that it needs better confirmation. And I know that I frustrate people sometimes with delaying on covering stories, but there's plenty of channels that just jump on stuff the second it's reported. And I don't know, I feel like I should have high standards, certainly higher than like Fox News or whatever. So anyway, I'm not saying that this is not about that story in particular, but just there's a lot out there. Okay, more news to come, but first I wanted to remind you about a partnership that TYT is doing with Noble Mobile, the only wireless plan that pays you to use your phone less. On their Noble plan, you get unlimited data for just $50 a month, and starting today, you can get $40 off your first month, leaving it just $10 for the first month, plus the unused data you don't use gets you cash back, and you can check it out at tyt.com/switch. And with that, let's jump into one of the big foreign policy stories of the day. Thank you, by the way, for the tip on the whistles. I will have to look into that. Okay. Donald Trump implied today that perhaps he will not actually be bombing Iran again, and some on the right are furious about that. Here is what he said that set them off.
We have been notified and pretty strongly, but we'll find out what that all means. But we've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions. So I've been told that on good authority. We'll find out about it.
There, he's announcing maybe he's accomplished his goals. He had been pressuring the Iranian regime on Truth Social to tamp down or hopefully stop the violence and the executions against protesters, which has been devastating. 2,000, 2,500, depending on who you ask, 5,000, 10,000 protesters have been killed. The numbers are all very high, and there had been declarations by Iran that executions were coming. Irfan Sultani, who you can see in this picture, was expected to be the first protester to face execution. They are saying now they're not going to do that, and if that's true, that would be genuinely good news. We don't want to see any of this violence, let alone the executions. But it's also Donald Trump. And so whenever he talks about this, he says maddening things. He said, discussing the response from security forces, he said that, quote, people were shooting at them with guns and they were shooting back. And it's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things that they're gunning down protesters. And that thousands of people have died. But as I said, MAGA's not happy about this indication that maybe he's backing off of the bombing. Mark Levin was saying there's overwhelming evidence that the Iranian regime's slaughter has not ended. And certainly there is still evidence of violence against protesters. Mark Levin, for once, is not entirely wrong. He says the tactics have changed, and when the world's attention turns elsewhere, thousands in prisons will be executed after they're tortured, and the others will be hunted down like wild animals. The door is closing on these courageous and beautiful people, so many of them young like our own children and grandchildren. And I feel so strange reading words that I agree with, written by a man who definitely doesn't mean any of it. I mean, he does want intervention. He does want the Iranian regime taken out. He doesn't care about a single goddamn Iranian person. And by the way, maybe that doesn't matter to the protesters if they get, the assistance that they want. But We just also have to be clear that Mark Levin doesn't care about them. I care about them. I think they're courageous and beautiful. I want them to have help. I want them to live free, and I want them to experience self-determination. But the idea that Mark Levin wants that seems utterly crazy. The idea that Donald Trump fundamentally wants that when he's declared on Wikipedia that he's the interim president of Venezuela and they don't get to have elections. Again, you can think a lot of different things. It's a complicated story, but there's not a lot of pure people in this. Lindsey Graham was saying every indication that the Iranian regime's killing of protesters is still very much in full swing, hoping that help is on the way. Random, prior supporters of Donald Trump are saying what the duck Trump, what the actual duck, although they did not say duck. This will be remembered as Trump's Afghanistan withdrawal. But honestly, look, I have to say, I wish we had anyone other than Trump in charge right now. I wish that other world leaders would get involved and really take control of this thing and find a way to help out the people of Iran without just blatantly doing the bidding of Israel, which is what I fundamentally believe Mark Levin wants him to do and what Donald Trump will do. It is complicated, and these beautiful, courageous people do deserve help. But I really don't buy what Trump is saying at all. I don't even think that Mark Levin does. He also tweeted, could also be a head fake in the lead up to something. We will know soon enough. And I think, look, I don't bet on the online betting things, and don't take advice from me financially. I think that this is a head fake. I don't think we get to Monday and he hasn't bombed Iran again. Maybe I'm crazy. I was a little bit off with Venezuela. I was off by a week and a half, 2 weeks or something. No, I remember what he said. Remember, 3 days before he bombed Iran the first time, he's like, I'll be making my determination in 2 weeks, everyone, super reasonable stuff. They were already, the timeline was already set that they were gonna bomb. And he is a simple man. He does the same thing over and over. He tells the same anecdotes over and over. I think what he said in the Oval Office, to me, is proof that they're gonna be bombing in the next couple of days. But Viviana, what do you make of this? Complicated situation, what do you make of it?
Yeah, he simplifies it by always saying, well, we'll see. And that means, yes, we're gonna continue bombing. He never admits to what he's gonna do, but he hints at it. And it's very sad because I don't think he really gives two squirts about anybody in Iran and Venezuela, in this country. I know, I'm sorry, that was icky. But he takes advantage of people in crisis. There are Venezuelans here in the United States who are championing him for what he's done in Venezuela, and I'm sure there's Iranians doing the same. Or you have the Cambodians who were championing him for the intervention he did, there several months ago. So he takes credit for things that he hasn't done while he's stirring the pot and making more problems. So yeah, will the bombs keep dropping? Yes, they will. Will people keep suffering? Does he care about these protesters? No. Just like he doesn't care about his own people. It's funny that he's like, yeah, get out there, protesters. And then he's like, don't get out there over here. It's just, I don't understand how anybody can look at this administration and actually believe anything that they say. I don't, that they actually, he says he's ruled by his own morality. What's that? Do you have that? What morality have we ever seen from Donald Trump? And how all of these people who supposedly are very moral and they follow the Bible believe that this man is gonna be doing good?
Not much. Do we have time to move on to a final story? We do? Okay. I might have a little bit more to say about that story after the break, but let's jump first into this.
After redistricting, we think we'll net a few more seats, handful, maybe 6 to 8. We're in very good position to make history and grow this majority.
Yeah, but as Tim Robinson famously said, you sure about that? You sure about that, Mike Johnson? Oh, they were so excited to do the redistricting. Either because they actually thought it would benefit them, or more likely because Trump told them to, and it doesn't matter what the outcome is. Mike Johnson submits to Donald Trump. Put that on a t-shirt. The issue is that it might not, in fact, be working out numbers-wise for them, because what they can do, we can do, and maybe we can do it better. And I'm not just talking about California here. Virginia also is making some big moves. Virginia House Democrats passed a redistricting constitutional amendment for a second time on Wednesday. It now heads to the Senate for a vote before it can be voted on during a referendum this spring, perhaps in April. It's expected to easily pass in the Senate, by the way, given the Democrats' majority there. They're eyeing in Virginia a 10-1 or 9-2 map in a state where Democrats currently have a 6-5 edge in the congressional delegation, meaning potentially 3 or 4 seat swing just in Virginia alone. And by the way, is that fair in Virginia? Is Virginia a 90% Democratic state? No. And prior, old John, 2023 John would say, no, this is wrong. Let's not do this. But we didn't start it. And maybe we need to do it this way to get them to finally cry uncle and then set up federal independent expert-led redistricting so that the great Republicans of Virginia can have some representation. But until we get there, screw them. They apparently don't get to choose their leaders the same way that we don't in Texas and perhaps not in Florida. And soon the Republicans won't get to in California either, because 2 members of a 3-panel judge panel upheld Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom's new map. It was approved by state voters last year. It had been challenged by the California Republican Party. And to that, I refer you to the Miss Rachel and Zoran Mamdani crying emoji or GIF. And so we could potentially get 5 seats there. We might get 3 or 4 in Virginia. And by the way, there's a lot of this going around. It could still benefit the Republicans a little bit. It could also hurt them because we know that you can't do these maps without potentially risking some of these seats. And these maps that they're experimenting with, the super gerrymandered ones, are based on assumptions about voter behavior that are seeming a little bit out of date with how much people hate the Trump administration. And so bear in mind also, Maryland might be able to get the Democrats 1 extra seat. Illinois potentially might move on this too. Governor DeSantis thinks he can do this in Florida. There's a lot of this going around and none of this should be happening, but never forget, they're the ones that started it. Viviana, what do you think?
I mean, I gotta say, John, I voted for the measure here in California and I hated doing it. I hate that we're doing this as a country. I think it is so bad for us. I feel like we're pushed into a corner and like you said, we gotta fight fire with fire, but we are putting ourselves in such a delicate position as just as countrymen, because once we empower politicians to start fiddling with these kinds of things, it's a slippery slope into some bad stuff. So I'm hoping that this is all temporary. We figure some stuff out to stabilize our country. We get rid of the Electoral College and we have like actual district maps that make sense for the communities they're in. But right now, it's so ugly on both sides. It can go either way. And I understand we're trying to fight what they're doing, but this isn't democracy. This is redlining and gerrymandering. This was like not allowed before. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have a wildly corrupt Supreme Court. So I don't trust them on this either. In any event, that's gonna have to be it for the first hour of the show. When we come back in the aftermath though, we're gonna talk about food, about the protein you're gonna maybe soon be forced by the government to eat far more of, and a whole lot more besides. If you get any food, by the way, because they've run some simulations and it's looking a little bit dicey when it comes to dinner. We'll have all that and more after this. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all, in which we will get to your comments, we'll get to the news. But first, I want to remind you of our sponsor, Noble Mobile. Save money by using your phone less and get unlimited data for just $50 a month at tyt.com/switch. In the chat, I spoke with John's Rage, says, John looks like his hidden talent is breakdancing. It is, it's just so well hidden that I'm not even aware of it. But anyway, let's see. Huang Jun says, bed knobs and broomsticks is like Mary Poppins for grownups. I thought it was a kid's movie. It's not?
It's not, it's kind of slow for kids. If you think Pete's Dragons had poor graphics, John, wait till you see the bed flying and bed knobs and broomsticks.
Great. Okay, let's see. Sarah Kearney says in a super chat, would you wish my friend Alina Chambliss happy birthday? We love you and listen every day. Well, happy birthday and thank you for listening. I appreciate that. I hope the day goes great. Okay, with that said, let's talk about some food, starting with this.
My message is clear, eat real food.
That was something. That's a real video that RFK Jr. Tweeted out. Obviously, we had to change the music because it was copywritten, but yeah, it reads like an ad for like HelloFresh or something. What's with the B-roll? And could you calm down, please? But I do like that he's encouraging people to eat real food. As you saw in the video, I've been telling him to eat real food rather than roadkill for years, and he's finally caught up on it. But anyway, this is part of his new war against the war on protein, which is a real thing he has announced. They put out this video, we are ending the war on protein. And are they incapable of doing a meme where the guy in the meme doesn't look like he's about to sexually assault you? Why is he blurred out? Why is he in shadow? You're talking about chicken, you weirdos. Why can't I see his eyes? It looks like he just murdered my family. Are they the protein? Anyway. The idea that there's a war on protein, my God, we'll return to that. This is part of his new, he's got his food pyramid that he put out, which he decided on rather than the experts. And like some of it's fine. Yeah, people probably eat too many carbs. But like the idea that like whole grains should be the thing you eat the least and steak should be on the tier of the most. No, you jackass, you weird elitist disconnected fool. But anyway, yeah, eat real food. Eat actual food. Don't eat as much processed stuff. Don't eat as much sugar. It's the sort of advice that right-wingers spent years and years freaking out over when anyone left of center would advise them that maybe it's a good idea. And by the way, if Dr. Fauci had said this exact same stuff, they would be saying he should be lynched by the government. Let's just be clear about that. But when it's him, it's fine. And I will just say that BuzzFeed put out that article, by the way, about that. They included one of my tweets where I said they've done it. They've found a war faker than the one on Christmas. The idea that there is a war on protein is insane. As Melissa Luck makes clear, saying we've got a Kardashian with a protein popcorn line. Where's the war? Hell, woke ass Starbucks has protein lattes. There's protein pasta, there's protein cereal, protein pink. Protein is literally everywhere. You can't eat Cheerios without getting extra protein in it. But RFK Jr. has to present everything as if he's Luke Skywalker fighting against the Empire or something. It's pathetic, it's beneath us, but it's fine advice, sure. Eat more real food. What do you think, Viviana?
Yeah, I think you're right. Because remember, they flipped their lid when Michelle Obama said to eat kale chips instead of chips. I lost a high school friend. I remember I posted a recipe on how to make your own kale chips. And she was like, wow, kale's so expensive in the grocery store. I mean, she was a Trumper early on. And we stopped talking. Lindsay, I'm sure you're not watching. Hi. Kale chips, they were evil then. Now, I'm a vegetarian, John, so I get this question about protein every single day of my life. How do you get the protein? And I'm very sad that beans are way down here. Beans are important. And let's not forget why Americans had grains at the base of their pyramid back then. Because that's what the USDA wanted people to eat. Why? Because that's what Americans were making money off of.
Yeah.
Now I guess they want Argentina to make the money since they got all the money for the soybeans, and then now they're gonna get the money for the meat because we can't afford to make meat anymore. Anyway, I hope you're hungry because you're gonna be for a while.
Yeah, if your friend was worried about the cost of kale, has she seen steak? Which RFK Jr. is implying we should be eating a couple times a day or something. I can't afford that. What are you talking about? Also, why are potatoes so high up on there? Like if you're worried about, again, bananas are so low. It's just madness. It's just mad. Like, sure, if people wanted this exact distribution, they could have just listened to Joe Rogan or whatever. We didn't need RFK Jr. to swoop in at the very end. Anyway, with that said, it might be a little bit harder to eat all of these real foods than he might want you to believe, as will be clear in this. Let's jump into this next story. We and most Americans have been begging the Trump administration to do something about the cost of food. Their solution, though, not great. It seems to be just encouraging you to just eat a little bit less, maybe a lot less, as will be demonstrated here.
While we're asking Americans to reconsider what they're eating, are we actually asking Americans, especially those who are living on the margins, are we asking them to spend more on their diet? And the answer to that is no. We've run over 1,000 simulations. It can cost around $3 a meal for a piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, corn tortilla, and one other thing. And so there is a way to do this that actually will save the average American consumer money.
That's what you're going with? That's what, and the host's like, that sounds good. Oh, I'm glad that you've run simulations. You know, my favorite simulation is going to HEB, going to Ralph's, going to Stop and Shop. And why are you in a computer? Does everything have to be AI? My God, conservatives love AI. Just go to the store. But also, so this is wildly elitist, and why wouldn't it be? His cabinet is filled with billionaires. She herself is a multi-millionaire. She doesn't have to worry about the cost of food. She doesn't have to worry about the cost of anything. That's for peasants to do. But also, like they call the Democrats elitist. They also say that the Democrats are lizard people. Could that sound any less like a person who doesn't actually eat human food and is an alien just trying to estimate, like, okay, they have chicken, maybe they have one of the green things, a piece of the green thing, and then something else. I don't know. I don't want to Google what humans eat. It's just so elitist, so disconnected. Here's what that would look like, by the way. This is what she's saying. Just you have a piece of chicken, you have a piece of broccoli, corn tortilla, and one other thing. We'll find whatever it is. It's just, my God, they're terrible on this topic. This is why people love someone like Zoran Mamdani who actually gets it. And they cannot make enough ads hitting the Republicans and Trump and his administration on these topics, because all of his cabinet secretaries, like each one is worse than the other in the way that they talk about this and how disconnected they seem. What do you think, Viviana?
Well, I like how they're promoting tortillas. I've never met one human being that eats only one tortilla. I'm Mexican and they come in twos at least. I was thinking about when they went in there to try to make the school meals healthier. I don't even know if we're gonna feed kids in school anymore, but they're like frozen nuggets, the most unhealthy processed foods the USDA has been pushing on our children for decades. Now we have this. I'm all for eating real food. I think that this is great. I don't understand the mixed messaging like you're talking about. Did they use SimCity for the simulation? Because if you give one sim a piece of broccoli, they are happy for a while, but it doesn't last, and things start going awry. So maybe they need to keep on working with SimCity, build it up a little bit more. I'm not sure what they're using for their metrics, but it is concerning because prices are high, families are having and these are the kinds of things that food stamps helped with. This allowed families to eat healthy portions, healthy food, to go out there, but I don't understand how they are mixing these messages up. Eat healthy, but let me make it expensive for you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll also say, like, you have to eat real food. You have to be able to buy real food, which both costs money, but also maybe you're not in an area that even has it. Like, do you remember over the past decade or so when people would talk about food deserts, how the right shouted that down? Oh, what are you talking about? The food deserts. Again, like, they're just so utterly hypocritical on this topic. But their solution really sucks because I think Blue Jacks actually figured out what simulation they were running. I don't think it was a simulation. I think that they Googled what can you get for $3. And I think it's this. I think it's one McDonald's snack wrap. $3, you get a piece of chicken, you get a little bit of green stuff, a tortilla, and something else. I don't know, pico de gallo or something. Maybe you get, and that's what you eat 3 of those a day, and you should be fine until you die of starvation. But yeah, no, it's totally good. I just want to remind everyone. Let's jump into graphic 9. You remember the Great Gatsby party that Trump had with the women and the massive champagne glasses and everything? These people are so freaking elitist, and they condescend to us so much about literally everything. But anyway, we're gonna move on to other news in just a sec. First, Birdland Baby. Is that the new cognitive test they're giving to Donald Trump? Birdland Baby. Thank you for your 5 months supporting us. What's a Birdland Baby? I don't know.
Chicken, broccoli, one other thing that's in there too.
You choose one of those 3 things as the other thing. Embedded Dude says in the members' comments, TDR and other podcast chats allow me to vent. It's very therapeutic. I don't know if I could cope without them. Well, I appreciate that. I rely more and more on podcasts, actually. Not generally a lot of political ones. I have a couple of political podcasts I listen to, but I listen to movie podcasts and wrestling podcasts and stuff like that. It's very nice. It's a slower paced, more comforting form of content. I need it too. Great episode, by the way, of Jon Stewart's podcast this week. We might be talking about some of that tomorrow on the show. But anyway, with that, why don't we jump into other news? Another leaked private chat between Republicans shows them to be absolutely reprehensible monsters. In this case, it's elected officials in New Hampshire. So they got caught with their group chat where they were talking about how awesome segregated schools will be and about what they can do when they segregate their schools. This is not just fantasizing, they expect it's gonna happen. Let's start with this woman, State Representative Kristen Noble of New Hampshire. So you're gonna see some messages from her. So here's what the New Hampshire House Education Committee's chair, so that's her, said to group message with her colleagues. So Kristen Noble, when we have segregated schools, we can add all the fun stuff, LOL. Imagine the scores though, if we had schools for them and some for us. Them and us. I wonder what she means by that. I'm not sure. Now, you might have noticed that in addition to those comments, the first comment she had the Elon Musk crying, laughing emoji. That was provided by State Representative Katie Peternell, also on the Education Committee, who thought the idea of segregating their schools was so funny. Oh, it's just great. Imagine we can finally have fun again, and we'll have good scores and they'll have bad scores. And isn't it great to be able to talk in private and just say this stuff that we want? And there's some other stuff we can just quickly go into here. They're worried that kids might be taught that guns are bad. Good to know that they have the kids' backs in a country that can't seem to go 1 week without a school shooting. They want to make sure that there's no anti-gun propaganda in schools. But anyway, Viviana, I want you to jump in here because American schools are still fairly segregated in a lot of parts of the country. They're not 100% legally segregated, but perhaps with the work of great women like those two, we might get back to that at some point. What do you think?
There's a huge discrepancy amongst public schools in regards to class. And of course, class and race are intrinsically tied. Based on our culture and our history in this country. So yeah, there's a lot of segregation. It's pretty disgusting that these people would casually be talking about something like that. And like you said, who are they talking about? Who is them? Who is us? I think we can connect the dots there. And it's gonna be really sad when we are not teaching that guns are dangerous and guns are bad. I don't think that means that you can't ever have a time and a place for a gun. And I think there are a lot of people across the country that agree that, but this is an education policy group chat. What the heck is going on here? This should be talking about putting kids first, all kids, not just kids that you like or you want to see succeeding, and us and ours. That's not helping. These people should be removed from office if they're talking about constituents this way. It's disgusting.
No, 100%. They should. You cannot have people who think the long-term goal should be segregating the schools on the education committee. Get them off the committee, get them out of office. We'll see if the people there actually care enough. That's my ultimate fear, is I don't think we're that far off from politicians just openly calling for explicit racial segregation of schools again. Look at how emboldened they are. Like, oh God, they are loving the Somali stuff. Like, I have been having to use these like vague slurs and stuff to attack black people, but now it's like, oh, we can just do it, and we can do it for Somalis now. but soon maybe some more people. They are so excited about this, and they're using it to try to alter policy. Look at in New York, they announced the free childcare up to 2 years or whatever. They're attacking that, saying, oh, it's gonna be fraud, it's gonna be Somali fraud. This isn't just racism, it's designed to affect policy, and I have no doubt that this is gonna be part of that. But unfortunately, we do have a little time to get to our final story. I'm gonna read one comment and then we'll jump into it. CD and Northstock Dad says in super chat, why are hashtag roadkill bear and hashtag dead whale not on this list? Yeah, I don't know exactly where they're in the pyramid. Your access to them, it's seasonal. So, but it should be locally sourced and free range, as in you just find it out there ranging somewhere. Anyway, with that said, let's jump now to this. To hear prominent Republicans tell it now, the 2020 election was definitely stolen. Donald Trump is totally right about that. And they all say that now because they feel they have to. But back when Trump was first making those claims, some of them felt very free to mock them as utterly ridiculous and baseless. And one of them, one of Donald Trump's biggest supporters, has been unveiled as being very critical of those remarks in the past. Senator Lindsey Graham is who I'm talking about right here. It's now been revealed that he expressed exasperation over the president's baseless 2020 election fraud claims, telling grand jurors, quote, I have told him more times than we can count that he fell short, and that, quote, if you told him Martians, oh, sorry, I'm not really selling this. If you told him Martians came and stole votes, he'd be inclined to believe it. He called the Trump campaign's plan to enlist fake electors in swing states where the president had lost the election, quote, weird. I don't know what to tell you, just weird. Well, I hope that he's gotten used to it since then, because he's definitely gonna try to do it again, by the way. He went on to say that he tried to explain to Trump why he lost, saying, quote, the McCain effect in Arizona was real. And when you look through the suburbs in the states in question, you sort of had a common pattern where President Trump ran behind other Republicans. I was trying to convey that to him, basically saying that Donald Trump constantly viciously slamming John McCain is a thing that the Republicans in Arizona were not a fan of. But again, Trump cannot take responsibility for what he says or does, so he has to imagine that's the ghost of Hugo Chavez, it's Italian satellites, it's whatever. It's gotta be something else, by the way. And it wasn't just him. Georgia's Attorney General at the time, Chris Carr, said in his testimony before grand jury that in a call with Mr. Trump after the 2020 election, the president urged him to stop lobbying other state attorneys general against joining a lawsuit filed by Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas. Mr. Carr testified that he believed the Texas suit to be legally, factually, and constitutionally wrong. But he told the president that he was not reaching out to his fellow attorneys general about the matter, but he was clear that he didn't think it was based on anything good right there. And so, look, again, now they're all on board. You just have to be, or you'll be kicked out of the party. So I guess the joke should be on them, but it is indeed on us, I suppose. But Viviana, what do you make of this?
It's like George Costanza's the president of the United States. Like, if you believe the lie, then it's true. And then you have all of these, bootlickers saying, yeah, let's go. It's just insanity. We saw what happened. You have his own people, Lindsey Graham, I mean, the biggest coward of all, this guy. He wants to, every time he comes back in from the shadows, I'm like, who let you in? You're supposed to be outside. He's back and he's supporting, he's propping him up. This president does not give two, I won't say squirts again, John. He doesn't give two.
You just did.
He doesn't care about anybody. I don't think he's got any more squirts left, to be honest. So nothing to be grossed out about. Anyhow. That's it, John.
That's it. Thank you.
It.
You have said, I don't know how Brett is going to exceed you now, but anyway, talking about Trump and squirts, please back off. You're getting Lindsey Graham hot and bothered somewhere. And Mike Johnson's phone just buzzed a notification. Anyway, yeah, glad that we got this testimony. Wish it actually mattered, but unfortunately, we don't live in a country or a world where consequences exist. But anyway, Viviana, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, John. Appreciate everybody. Don't forget the GoFundMe for my sister.
I was literally just going to remind you to remind everyone. Available on Viviana's Instagram right there.
She's a domestic violence survivor. She just got the house awarded to her by the court, and then it burns down, I swear, a week later. It's very tragic.
That's terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, we will have Brett here tomorrow. We'll be doing our garbage people and our hero of the week. I know who I'm pulling for on hero of the week. We'll see if I get what I want there. But in either event, join us there. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.